Okay, I'm going to try this again. Hopefully this time Shraddha can get a better connection. So I'm going to go ahead and
Hi, so
Hey,
sorry. So
why
so
are you
sorry for that.
apologizing for the internet? I
It's an
also
habit.
changed my angle to get closer to the router.
Yeah, it's my habit. I think it's a
No
human
worries. Yeah,
nature.
we do that a lot as women, right? We apologize a lot.
Yeah, I think we should change a habit to thank you for waiting.
Absolutely. So, okay. People are beginning to join us back. So, really quickly, sorry about that technical difficulty, you guys. But Shraddha was talking about the fact that at the workplace, we have the right as women for equal pay for an equal amount of work as compared to male employees. And from
Yes.
that point on, Shraddha, please continue.
Yes. So I was citing an example as a legal consultant. Even the consultant are also covered. So for example, I'm a lawyer, right? I'm not working as an payroll employment, but I am working as a consultant with the organization. So is my male counterpart, right? So if you agree to pay him 50,000 for his expertise, skills, and experiences, which is same or similar in my expertise, skills, and experiences, you are supposed to pay me equal pay as you're paying him, right? That's the law. And not a lot of women know that this law exists. It is there, it is in the books, and you can ask for equal pay. It's your right to ask for equal pay. So most time the question comes in around, how do I know like how much he's getting paid? So you need to do your research according to the company. You need to ask employers the right question, like what you need to go back at the table. You need to negotiate if you feel this is your expertise and skills. And this law applies to a lot of commercial establishment, including in a fashion industry, like in textile, in manufacturing, in hemp industry. So almost everything has been covered under equal remuneration. So you don't have to worry. So there might be a question like, if the employer is not paying me equal remuneration, what should I do, right? What you can do as an employee, you can file a complaint. So you can file a complaint with trade unions. A lot of industries have trade unions. You can first try to go to your employer, have a conversation with the employer, why this is so, and try to negotiate. If that doesn't happen, if the employer has not done due process of law and is not justifiable to explain the cause, you can always go to trade unions, and there are commissions, there are inspectors according to a district. You can just Google it, your district labor inspector. You can find it to Google. The state labor website comes up, and according to the jurisdiction, they display the officers' number, details, and everything. So you can just call them up or write an email or send a letter, and that's how you can register a complaint against your employer. That's a simple
Okay, so
process.
I'm going to just really quickly repeat what you just said. You can reach out to your state legal department and your district labor inspector, whose contact
Yes,
you can find online, and find an official complaint if your male counterpart is being
yes.
paid less than you. But are you then supposed to furnish proof that you're being paid less than a male counterpart who has the same skills as you?
Yes, of course. You just have to file a complaint. Evidence are not necessary for, if you have evidence, that's well and good in law. If you do not have, you do not have to worry about it. It's the duty of the trade unions and inspector, designated inspector by the state authority, to do the due diligence and find the reports of thing, and they will do the necessary things. So you don't have to worry about all the evidence and everything if you don't have. But if you feel that is there, and if you have evidence, always furbish it to the inquiring inspector. That's better. You can always file a complaint with trade unions. That's the reason trade unions are there. For example, as considering fashion industry, we have artisan working. We have, there are a lot of women working with the fast fashion brands in the factories. They are covered into this, right? So they can always go to trade unions to listen, this is the problem, and then trade unions can do the necessary things to file a complaint, how to go about it. Trade unions all. So you just need to know, if you have any aggrieved problem with your employer, these are the people which are appointed by states, and this is how they take the mechanism. You should know the right people to file the complaint, not
Which would
how
be
to
the
go about
district
it.
inspector, would be
Yeah,
the right person?
yes,
Okay,
you can.
wonderful.
there are jurisdiction, according to the jurisdiction, the inspectors have been allotted. You can just Google, simple Google search about, for example, Maharashtra. I live in Maharashtra. I put Maharashtra State Department Labor Law, Labor and Employment Departments. You get details about which district are you in, which jurisdiction are you in, which inspector has been appointed for state your grievances about employment. That's how you go about it.
So the state legal department, you look for the state
Yeah.
labor department, and they
Yes.
usually those websites give you the information of the relevant
Yes.
inspector,
Yes.
so you can
Yes.
file a complaint with.
Yes.
You know what's really interesting here is I bet not very many women have even thought to find out if they earn less than their male counterparts,
Yes.
or if they can actually do something about it. Also, I don't know if this is something that you've encountered. So I have an office where we try to employ entirely women. Not anymore, because in some cases for certain job profiles, like say accounts or legalities, or very technical work, we often don't get female applications as much as men. And what that tells me about the world in general, and certainly in fashion and other industries as well, is that I think a lot of women just don't study or are not given the opportunity to have the necessary education for a lot of the technical, legal, or finance heavy jobs because of gender biases. And those are the better paying jobs. So you might, of course, if you're two people and it's straight and narrow where you make the same amount of money for the same amount of work, but then mostly managerial positions, positions attracting MBAs, positions in that require higher pay, there seem to be more men applying for it. Would you agree with this?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I still believe when I have a conversation with anybody about workplaces, it's finance, legal, these these heavy working and professional jobs are always dominated by men, has been dominated by men, and making a space for women is like, it's just a big huge responsibility. So even if one woman comes up, so it just gives us pleasure, like, if she can do it, we can. It is heavily dominated because I feel there is gender bias, there is technological bias when in the application process also. So yeah, you are absolutely right. I agree with you. It's
What do you mean by
dominated.
technological bias, Shraddha? Would you elaborate on that?
So I don't know, have you read a book about invisible women? When the data has been always created, and when technology has been created, it always according to how men perceive it, and not women, right? Some jobs are also in our country also, like, women cannot work in mines which are below above ground level for safety reasons, right? Till particular, women were not allowed to be in army, women were not allowed to be a pilot, right? These were changed because of judicial interpretation of the law, law being unconstitutional, because women do have capabilities and power to do same job as their male counterpart. Also, I agree there are certain kinds of work, making BD and cigars. The scientifically it has proven that it has injurious and has safety measures. That is fine, but there are some jobs like legal, finance, or flying an aircraft and anything were dominated by men, which has been changes due to. That's why it is always important, if you face with any legal difficulties, you file a complaint. This helps to make and bring changes in laws. So as a citizen of our country, if you feel that your right has been violated, you please do that. It helps bringing new changes in the law. This is what I believe. So yeah.
That's amazing. So here's what's really interesting for every woman out here, for anyone who has a sister, a wife, a mother, or daughter. Here's what's really interesting. We have these ideas that women can't do XYZ things. Women can't handle money. Women can't drive. Women can't be pilots. And it's not that women can't, it's that we don't allow them to have the skills, the education, the support, the opportunity. And so they are at a disadvantage. I went for some gender sensitization training with a wonderful colleague, Rishi Sher Singh, years ago, where he talked about, what about physical labor heavy jobs? And what we came away with is that all of these are preconceived notions. Gender is not a deciding factor for capability of any job. A person is a person. They're capable. Someone might be naturally inclined to be artistic, or naturally inclined to be technical, or might be, like you said, that, the law gets you all worked up and excited. But your gender doesn't constitute that capability in any way. And I never even realized that maybe as women, those of us who are getting opportunities, if we find that there is injustice, then filing a complaint actually helps to change the system. Because if enough women are not voicing their concern, then why is there any reason to change the law? Because women are okay with
Exactly.
things the way they are.
Yeah, I mean, I posted a story of women not being in the legislature is also a big issue in our country. Like 13% of women are in legislature. People who are making law about women are men who do not
Yes.
understand what women need. If you do not create space for women at the legislature position or judiciary, it becomes difficult for the ordinary women to talk about their rights or to create space about their rights. So I mean, it's proven by, like, I was reading a research from some economist, female economist. They conducted a research in India where, when the sarpanch
Okay.
is a woman, they see her as a women as a leadership position. When women are given more leadership positions, you know, there is tend to have more confidence in younger girls.
Absolutely.
They are more perceived to find this hard male core dominated jobs, like, this is, if she can do it, that's what I say, if she can do it, so can we. So that helps to create, space around equal opportunities and equal space. So that is very important,
Yes,
I feel.
space, space. That's so well said, and thank you for sharing that. I mean, honestly, a little bit of a segue here. As someone who, it's a very small thing. I chose to start my own business, and I don't really come across very many female entrepreneurs. I'm not saying women aren't in
Yeah,
business, but many are
yeah,
working with their fathers and brothers. I work with family as well. It's a part of my work that I handle independently. And what I found is that the CAs are men, the accountants are men, the lawyers are men, and it's hard to really, you have
break
to
the
almost
barriers.
fight for your respect. I'm like, no, I'm as good as anyone else. I'm not at a disadvantage because I'm female, but because I choose to make these choices, I'm guessing when I talk about it, there are other women who feel, well, if she can do it, I certainly can. Because
Yes,
I think we hold ourselves back because some of women also subscribe to the idea that there are some things we cannot do. And I went to
yeah,
fashion school, right? My fashion design, 70% of my batch was women, because apparently men can't design. And I'm sure the you went to law school. Is it safe to say it was more men than women?
I mean, I could say not. In today's scenario, law schools have changed a lot. There are a lot of women who are getting into law. They are
That's
getting dominant.
wonderful.
They are
That's
dominating in the
wonderful.
legal industry. But this is in the law school. But eventually, when you go out for work, it's the same situation. And there are a lot
I
of
see.
other things which include in law school. Your university, is it first year law school or second year law school, and hiring. It's biased still, but as an industry, we are working towards it to just not have that bias anymore. I hope
Well,
we
on
achieve
that
that
note,
soon.
like you said, there's a lot of other things. So I think even if you're in a situation where women set off in the beginning of their careers as, on equal footing as men, we often find that women eventually give up on their careers at some point because of family.
Yes,
Like I regularly interview women and they say that they want to work till they marry. And I think a big part of that is their responsibilities at home. And that
right.
brings me to the topic of maternity leave. And if you are
Yes.
someone who wants to be a mother or wants to have domestic responsibilities, or doesn't have a choice in the matter and is also working, does the law protect you in any way?
Yes, of course. For women, there is act called Maternity Benefit Act. So this law protects women, and it not only protects women who give birth, okay, it protects mother who want to adopt or
I
who
see.
keep their embryos because of the medical condition and get into surrogacy. So it protects every kind of women. So you don't have to see that just because I am adopting or I am giving my embryos, I'm not protected under law. The benefits are lesser to the other two categories than giving biological birth. That is fair. So when a woman is going under the process of is pregnant or is about to give a birth, if the women biological birth, so the new amendment has come. Previously, it was 12 weeks of leaves were allowed, and which you are 6 weeks after the birth of the child. But now, because of policy changes and push from legislation has changed into 26 weeks. So you can avail 26 weeks of maternity benefits, and it applies across all industries and all establishments. Everybody is covered, and even in judgment, the consultants are also covered in this. So you don't have to worry just because you're not on the payroll. The labor contract laborers, people working in the mine, women working in the mine factories, each and every woman is covered under Maternity Benefit Act. So employer do not have an excuse. Employer cannot terminate just because you decide to be a mother. If you decide to adopt a child, if you decide to go through non-conventional ways of having a child, right? This is, you need to understand. In the two other categories, you have less maternity benefit, that is 12 weeks. So if you give a biological birth, it is 26 weeks. But if you adopt or go through process, and if you adopt a child who is 3 months below, it is 12 weeks. And you also need to understand when you can avail the maternity benefits. So you have to be working for 80 days in the whole 12-month of period from your expected date of delivery. If you're not working for 80 days, then you cannot avail the maternity benefits.
Okay, so I'm going to repeat and recap because you just threw a lot of information away, and I'm slow when it comes to technicalities. Not my strength.
Okay.
Not because I'm a woman. I'm pretty good at my own fashion technical stuff. This is the law. It's new for me.
It's law. It can become too much.
So the law is called the Maternity Benefits Act. Is that the name of the law? Okay. And
Yes.
you mentioned first of all that if you are pregnant, on that ground, an employer cannot fire you. That's number one.
Yes.
Number two, you get paid leave.
Yes, absolutely.
And if you have been working as a pregnant woman somewhere for 80 days, then you can access 26 weeks of paid leave if you're having biological birth. But if you're adopting or having a child in other unconventional ways, then you can have 12 weeks of paid leave. Is that right?
Yes, right. You even there we have parental leaves. It's an inclusive term for parents. It is not in private sector, but a lot of government sector where judgments have came from Supreme Court, where one parent, because of his wife, that he wanted to take care of his child, and they just terminated him without any due cause, and and it was challenged in the court, and so court decided that in the government sector, people are covered, fathers are covered. However, they have like lesser terms of paid leaves, like it is 6 weeks or 8 weeks. It depends.
I see.
However,
but this is not applicable in the private sector, however?
No, it is not applicable in private sector. However, many private sectors, companies have tried to have inclusive policy where they can make avail parental leaves rather than terming as maternity leaves. They term as inclusive, term as parental leaves, because the world is changing. People can be partners with anybody they want in this country. So yeah, the law is changing. Even the policies are changing internally, and policies are valid grounds. If somebody tries to have a misconduct with you, you can challenge the policies also. So yeah.
I see. So let's say that if I work for a company and I'm not getting maternity leave, where do I file a complaint, Shraddha?
So you can always, first my suggestion is always go to your HR. And also you need to understand before, when you sign a contract, a service of contract, you always need to understand as a woman, employers are obligated to tell you have the right to maternity. And see, listen, maternity benefit is not an excuse. It's a compulsion by law. It's an act, right? Every employer who has employees more than 10 employees have to avail this benefit. So it doesn't matter if there are women in your workspace. The moment you cross number of 10 employees, you need to have this facility. You have to give this benefit to women. So filing about the complaint, always go to HR and see how policies are, how discriminating they are. If not, you can always go. This procedure is always same for every labor matter. You can file a complaint in the labor courts, or you can file to the designated inspector according to the state. As state is as the labor matters in the concurrent list, the state has a right to appoint the inspector and officer. So you can file an officer. If not, you can always go to the state women commission. Always you can file a complaint, whichever.
The state women's commission.
Yeah, you can file if you're in Maharashtra state, for example. You can always file a complaint about your grievances to state commission.
I have a question for you, and this is the reverse of what you might expect me to ask. I'm purely thinking from an employer's point of view. So let's say someone's worked with me for 80 days, which is say a little over 2 months. Why would I, as an employer, want to pay them maternity leave for 26 weeks? And what if the person after maternity leave chooses not to come back to work? So I'm just wondering, given the ratio, just how if you had any thoughts on that.
So the 80 days term, you need to understand, like in the year you are talking, right? The 12-month period, they have worked 80 days for you, and they are expecting birth after a while, after a completion of 80 days in the workspace, right? That's what you're asking. That's what the law says. So there is no quite explainable thing that employer, why should they do it? And that's a valid question. And there are incidents where, women do not return to work, but we also know the reason behind why women do not come to work, because we have organizations have find excuse not to pay women because of this actual reason. So
Yes.
law here the law is for the employees and the women employees, not for employers. It's the
Yes.
employees benefit, not the employers benefit. So because employers have been exploiting women and giving this exact reason for not to hire, that's what creates lesser opportunities for women, less inclusive space for women, which also there is gender pay gap. That's why the reason behind increasing the gender pay gap is because of maternity, not availing the maternity benefits. So you're just pushing women out of the work world. So that's the reason maternity benefits, you need to understand, it's the benefit for employees, not the employers. It's the
Also,
protection
I
of
think it's
employees.
safe to say, as a woman, if I feel that my life doesn't stop, my career doesn't stop
Exactly.
because I'm pregnant, and that my employer is investing in me, regardless of the fact that I'm carrying a child or I have a child, just like they do invest in a male employee. I don't think you
Right.
ask a man whether he's going to have a child when you hire him or when you let him go. But I think a
Right.
woman's career, I work primarily with women, and what shocks me is that, are you married? Are you not married? Are you engaged? Are you not engaged? Do you have a child? Do you not have a child? Seem to be factors that decide a woman's career, whereas they don't affect
Yeah.
a man's career at all. I
Yeah.
think if I had the opportunity of an employer who acknowledged that I have biological needs and therefore financial support, why would I not continue to want to work with them? And
Yeah,
why would I not grow
exactly.
my career?
Exactly. Research has shown when you avail maternity benefits to women, they are more likely to come for work for you. They won't leave the job because they are
Never.
getting paid. They are getting paid.
Absolutely.
They have a job security, and everybody loves to have a financial security, even if they are gonna be a mother. So, right, the
Yeah.
researchers have shown that it's good to have this wide range of maternity benefits.
Well, I mean, I was
So,
playing devil's advocate here because as an employer, when I looked at that,
yeah,
the law, I walked it myself through the scenarios, and I think there's an incredible wisdom to the way it's being structured. Because even as someone who doesn't have children, I have no plans to have children anytime soon either. I would feel like my life has stopped because
so
I'm planning a child,
also,
but a woman shouldn't have to choose
yeah.
because a man doesn't have to choose. A man doesn't stop to take a promotion if his wife is pregnant. I'm assuming many men don't, but women certainly make decisions about their career which are detrimental to them based on this. So that's pretty amazing.
Also, like, if you feel that women cannot come, that's not the only ground to terminate the contract. If she doesn't come, you need to do process of law, that you can send notice, you can communicate with the respective employee, and to ask the reasons and everything. If availing, then always there are grievances where you can file a case, always there. that's
I
that's an open
see.
door of court, so you can
I
always go, you can
see.
terminate the contract, and you can file a case. You
So
can
an
file a case
employer
in the
has
government.
recourse as well if someone
Yeah,
chooses
yeah.
to abuse maternity leave. Why I'm
Right.
saying this is because a lot of people think that these laws are, it's ironic, these laws are to
It's
protect those who are at a disadvantage, but people use
Yes.
that as an excuse to say, oh, I don't want to get into this mess. I'll have, on the contrary, I think it sometimes deters people when they think that these laws are in place. So I think it's good to know that you're not going to get screwed over either way. The law protects
Exactly.
you if
See,
someone takes advantage of the maternity
right.
leave as well.
Exactly. So as an employer, like, you might feel that maternity benefit is is no benefit for you. But if you have done due process of law according to the act, you have a right to go and knock the doors of court or file a complaint. If you've done everything, you have evidence, to go for it. If you feel that you have done everything, you'll always get the recourse. The doors of the courts are never closed for any citizen of the country, so you can always have the right to file your grievances in the respective and courts. So yeah, go ahead and do it if you feel that is what has been done to you, always.
That's good to know. I'm just cognizant of time and I want to make sure we cover the topics we have listed for today. So I'm going to now move on to, before we move on from workplace altogether, we have two big things to cover. So women are no strangers to sexual harassment, of course, in
Yeah.
our lives in general. But let's talk about specifically sexual harassment in the workplace. And you and I, Shraddha, talked about the experience of being sexually harassed online and offline. I had
Yeah.
women in my office ask questions about what recourse for them is if they go through eve teasing and cyberbullying. I know this is a big umbrella, But maybe you can touch on the high points of how a woman can address these concerns in the
Yeah.
context of work.
So talking about, I'll quickly touch upon how sexual harassment at workplace take. It has been a big issue. We have an act to protect that. Okay. If any women at work, so you need to understand the workplace matters. So even a domestic worker is covered under sexual POSH Act. Okay. It's called Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act of 2013. A domestic worker. If, for example, somebody, you're working in an organization and you have an employee, female employee, and somebody walks into your office and that's just a delivery guy, and he says something to her which is unwelcoming, which it makes some sexual colored comments, that is also constitutes as workplace harassment. Okay, because the workplace matter, it doesn't matter. It is important to understand the term of workplace harassment. So who is, and fortunately or unfortunately, only women are covered under this. There are no men covered, there are not trans people covered into this. So you need to understand these are specifically for women. So what can be, what can constitute sexual harassment is like if somebody asking you for showing you pornographic images during workplace, or texting you load comments, like, there are healthy comments and there are load comments which are explicit and showing pornography. There are quite few examples in the workplace, and making you wait after work for no other reason, just to flirt with you or just to comment on your bodies or your clothes. These are sexual harassment comments, right? And it's a duty of every employer in our country to create a safe space. Even if I feel even the law was not there, it was duty of every employer to create an inclusive space. So it's happening, it's changing. And also in the time of pandemic, you need to understand, even if you work online over the computer, this is covered under POSH Act. The term, the workplace needs to matter because you're still working for the organization. You have not terminated the contract. Working on a laptop, having a meeting on your laptop is constituted as a workplace. It's constituted as workplace. So if
Okay, I'm actually going to take a pause here, just if you could, because you're throwing a lot of information out, and just if you want to slow down a bit. So the POSH Act is the Prevention of Sexual Harassment in the Workplace Act.
Exactly.
What Shraddha just said to us is that it covers any work you do. So if you're a domestic worker going into someone's house, from an office to working from home on a computer, really any sexually inappropriate or discomforting experience in any workplace is covered under the Act. Is that safe to say, Shraddha?
Yes. Only women are covered, you need to understand, because a lot of question comes from LGBT people, like whether the trans people are covered. No, only women are covered. So
which really, I mean, needs to be updated. Because many people are, and in fact now non-binary. Like I have conversations, and I know Project 5 is about empowering women, but the question I keep asking myself is, what if you choose not to identify as male or female? I mean, I think our laws on that front, I'm sad to hear that the men, for that matter, because a man could be harassed as well, and so could someone as identifying as any gender or as non-binary. I'm sad to hear that.
So good thing is to have an inclusive workplace policy against sexual harassment policy. The law also states that you need to have an anti-discriminatory sexual harassment policy. So you need to have that. So yeah, you
as a company, as an employer, you need to have an anti-sexual harassment committee in place.
Yeah. So
and also, from my experience of being an employer, you also need to have an anti-sexual harassment committee where there should be due course for someone to be able to file a complaint within the organization, right?
I'll quickly touch upon that. It is called Internal Complaint Committee, and it has to be constituted if you have 10 or more employees in the organization. So I need to focus on employees. It doesn't matter if it is a women employee or male employee. It doesn't matter. Any kind of gender work for you. If you exceed the number 10, you need to have an IC in your company. Okay. So IC have a lot of members, and in the presiding officer should be a senior female officer, women officer. You need to remember that when you're constituting an IC. Then 2 other members who have knowledge of social work and who have knowledge of legal rights. And also need to understand, if you do not have a senior women employee in a workplace, you can take advice from or hire anybody to be on an IC committee. It's not mandatory you need to have from
what's IC, Shraddha? What's IC
that
committee?
Is Internal Complaint Committee.
Internal Complaint Committee. Yes.
In legal abbreviation, we call it IC. That is Internal Complaint Committee, ICC or IC. So that is when you have 10 or more employees. There is a process followed. You file a complaint. The IC gives you an option to complainant and respondent. You have to go through the process where the IC informs the respondent, that is accused, to that the complaint has been filed by you. And there are two options whether the claim can be settled mutually, or if the complainant don't want that, the IC can proceed with the proceedings according to the rights given to them by the act. That's how it goes.
And can a woman ask for her complaint to be anonymous? Because if, for example,
Yeah,
if she's being harassed by her
absolutely.
boss.
Absolutely. In such sensitive cases, it's duty of the IC to keep it anonymous. You do not have to disclose women identity. You need to tell that a complaint has, the respondent needs to know that a complaint has to be filed. You need to not disclose identity of the women. So, but if you eventually go for mutual understanding, the identity go, but this it's the duty of the employer respondent that the name of the victim complainant should not go out anywhere. So that's very important.
Okay, so let's move very quickly to the legal aspect. If I am being sexually harassed, or I'm being harassed by someone at work, and I file a complaint and it's not addressed, and I want to take legal recourse, what does the law say? What do, like, how, if I want to go beyond my organization, who do I go to? What case can I file?
You
What law
can
protects me?
you can always file a FIR according to the act. You can always simultaneously file an FIR. If you are not satisfied with the IC's decision, you can always opt for a FIR. So you don't have to worry that you feel
So
that
you
it's
can file, sorry, I'm
yes.
interrupting you here because I'm surprised. You can file an FIR even if you're being bullied or sexually harassed online.
Yes, of course, you can always file a complaint. See, FIR and police complaint are two different things. You need to understand. FIR is filed when there is cognizable offense, which are of kind of very serious nature. During rape, murder, police investigate, and everything. The FIR has a process to file it. So in police complaint, you go and make an NC about it of which are of a serious nature. The magistrate have to take the consent. So in case of stalking, voyeurism, or cyberbullying, you have a right to file an FIR to the police station. So you can go ahead if somebody is bullying you online or you're getting harassed at sex at home or at outside where you're traveling. You
Or
can
on the
always file an
phone.
FIR on the
On the
phone. Yeah,
phone.
of course, any medium you can always file an FIR.
I'm sorry, I'm a bit confused here. So did you mention that the FIR is for more serious things like death and murder and rape, and for, say, stalking and bullying, it's a police complaint, or did I misunderstand you there?
So you need to understand there is difference between a police complaint and FIR. You go to the police officer, your nearest police station. You describe your incident. You file a complaint. So
Right.
FIR gets filed after investigating, right?
I
But
see.
in cases of rape and murder, police can file an FIR immediately because
I
they are
see.
it's a cognizable offense and they are of serious nature. So you need to understand the
What's a
seriousness of the
what's a cognizable offense?
where police can arrest you without a warrant, and if there are non-cognizable offense which are less serious and less serious in nature, so you need to take arrest warrant from magistrate. So no police officer can come you and say like I can check your house or without a arrest warrant or arrest you without a warrant. But if an FIR has been filed for you for murder or rape or very cognizable offense which has been lifted in the schedule of IPC, then police has a right to arrest without a warrant. That's our cognizable offenses.
So if someone causes you serious harm and you go into the police and you register a complaint, or rather you're going with a complaint, and it's a really serious matter, they can actually go ahead and arrest the
File.
person without a warrant.
Exactly. If you're charged with rape and murder, dacoity, kidnapping, of course they can arrest you. So they
My
don't
God.
need a magistrate's warrant to arrest you.
Okay. So just resetting the room really quickly, we're in conversation with Shraddha, who is a wonderful lawyer. She's joining us from Mumbai, and we're talking about women's legal rights. It's a two-part conversation that we're having today and on Monday. And we got into some really hot and heavy stuff, so I wanted to just take a break and do a quick recap before we move forward. We talked about discrimination policies and the right for equal pay at work. Yes, have some water and research, Shraddha. We then talked about the fact that if you're dealing with sexual harassment or if teasing at work, you can basically what redressal you can do within the organization, or if it's a really serious matter and you want to take further steps, how you can approach the police and file a complaint. On that note, I just want to understand, a lot of us, at least me as a woman, frankly, I'm afraid to even go to the police station. Or if
Right.
I'm driving and there's an incident and there's actually a cop nearby, I'm afraid, because you read really scary stories about cops themselves. And so
Yeah.
this is really, I wanted to do talk to you about, just as a woman, what are my rights vis-a-vis interacting with the police? If you had
Okay.
any light to share on that.
So you need to understand, like, police officers cannot arrest a woman after 6 p.m. and between 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. This is the law, which is covered under
Okay.
IPC. You need to clearly need to know that a woman cannot be arrested or a child cannot be arrested. Okay,
And IPC
that's
would
a
be Indian
penal code.
Indian Penal Code.
I just
I
forget
should
that
know
it's
that.
I just
I
forget
thought it's
it's
something
not.
to do with the police.
Yeah, it's under Indian Penal Code. So police knows the law. So you need a lot of, I hear that police cannot arrest women and everything, like, it's there are exceptions to every law in our country, anywhere in the country. So you need to understand, though police, you need to understand, police cannot arrest between 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. any women. Second, if they are if the crime is of if FIR filed against a woman and it's a crime of serious nature, you need to have a female police officer with you. You cannot say that, there are also exceptions where, there are no female police officer available and anything. You need to justify why not. But they cannot. Even if they want to ask questions to you, they can come at your place and they can question you. No, there is no necessity to take a woman or a child who is under 15 years of age to the police station, or under 18 years of age. They can
But do I have to
investigate.
entertain a police officer if they come to my house for some reason at 7 o'clock or eight
If
o'clock
they
at night?
No, they cannot arrest you, but they can question you. So you need to
I see.
understand, arrest is, they cannot take you and put it in the lockup. They have a right to question if the crime is, if there is something of serious nature. So a lot of
I see.
people confuse that, I'm a woman and no, police cannot question me. Of course they can question you. Even a male officer can question you, but the presence of a female officer needs to be there. Doesn't matter if a female officer is questioning you, it matters female officer is present. That's a justifiable cause. So, right, in many police station, we still not have a lot of women who are senior inspector. So if the senior inspector wants to, question you, you can't say no. I mean, you have right to deny whatever you want to say. That's the police station.
Sure.
So,
I
but
mean, being a woman doesn't protect you from breaking the law. It just protects
exactly,
you because there are
exactly,
laws needed to protect women. So again, quick
exactly.
summary so far, and because this is important stuff, is that if you're a woman, you cannot be arrested at night time. So between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. And if you are being questioned as a woman in your own home or at a police station, there needs to be a female police inspector or constable present. Did I cover that right?
Exactly, exactly. Also, I get questions during, like, while we are driving, right? A lot of women drive. Like you mentioned, like, what we're supposed to, if a police, always stop, and they can only question you with the female officer. It doesn't matter, like, for example, you're caught in a drink and drive case, right? So a lot of questions like, can a male police officer take a breath analyze a test of a woman? Of course, they can. The presence of a female officer is important. Who's doing what is not important. Of course, the check need to be done by a female officer, not a
Yes.
male officer. That is very important. No man can touch a woman in our country, even if it's around inspection or touching her bodily part. It's always going to be a female officer. So you need to remember that.
But tell me this, so you just said something. So for example, I'm driving and they pull me over for any reason. I
Yeah,
don't have my
yeah,
license, tail light is broken, I'm driving
yeah,
badly because breathalyzer, whatever. And both the constables on the road are men, which is often the
yeah,
case, and there's no female officer. And
yeah.
it's nighttime, which means, am I right in assuming that they cannot stop me?
No, they can stop you, because if they have probable cause to stop you, they can stop you. I told you, law has an exception. If you are committing a crime of a serious nature, they have a right to stop you from doing it,
Sure.
right? So they cannot arrest you. You need to understand, they cannot arrest you. They can pull you over. They can, take your license. They can take necessary details and leave you. But they cannot arrest a woman during a night time. That's
I see.
important. You
Understood.
are not immune from the law, even if you're a woman. Totally
Absolutely.
immune.
And it's really sad that we even need protection, or we have, I mean, honestly, we're
Exactly.
afraid to even approach the police, but these are things
Yes.
that women do deal
Yes.
with every day.
Yes.
Well, you know
And
what? I'm not going to go into a ton more detail in this
just
because there's
one,
a
can
lot
I add
more
one thing?
complexity. Oh, please,
Just
please,
one thing.
please.
So always remember, a police officer is always on duty, even if he or she or they are not in the uniform, they're always on the duty. So they cannot refuse to file a complaint if you want to file a complaint. That's important. Like, a lot
How
of
do you
people do
mean?
not.
I didn't follow. You
So
mean
if,
if you go into a police station?
yes, you cannot, a police officer cannot refuse to take your complaint. It's the law. You have to write a complaint. If somebody comes to the police station, it's the right of the citizen to file a complaint. What
Yes.
investigation is being done, it's the police duty according to the law. But as a citizen, I have a right to file a complaint, and police has a duty to file a complaint. That's how it
And
works.
if I file a complaint, is there like what is the proof that I filed a complaint? I
Okay,
mean,
so they will give, if a complaint is there, they'll give you. You have to describe the incident, what it has happened, and everything. They will read out to you the complaint, your incident, everything, and they'll take your signature and stamp, and they'll give you a copy and with the Xerox copy of the complaint. That's an evidence that you have filed a complaint. So you can go like in person and file a complaint. You can file a complaint online. You can send a letter, writing a letter to the senior officers. There are multiple ways of filing a complaint. That's it. Yeah.
so for anyone who's listening, I'm glad she brought this up. I actually know what it's like to file a complaint, unfortunately, but I don't think people realize it till you go in and actually give a written document where either they take down your statement or you submit one and it is stamped and signed and you're given a
Exactly.
copy. That's what
Yes.
the process of registration of a complaint looks like, and then it may or may not become an FIR. And that's really
Yeah.
important because that is the
Yeah.
only legitimate legal proof that you've come in asking for legal help.
Yeah.
And again, it's really
Yeah.
quite sad, but I don't think very many women. We wanted to keep today's session really basic because I don't think very many women even understand the fact that they can
Also,
approach
one
the
more
police for
thing
help.
regarding the FIR, if the crime is of cognizable of nature, like rape or murder, you have a right to file a zero FIR. What is zero FIR? So you always need to file if something has happened against you, you need to file according to the where the crime has happened. The jurisdiction needs to be where the crime has been committed. That's the jurisdiction of the police station, right? Suppose
Sure.
I have committed some crime in Andheri, so I need the place of the crime is important, so I need to file a complaint in Andheri. If it's a non-cognizable offense. But if the offense is of so serious nature, just like rape or murder, you can file a police complaint anywhere. You can register an FIR anywhere. So that is what is called zero FIR, because every FIR has a number, and zero FIR means literally zero. Like they do not have the jurisdiction, but they file because of the nature of the crime, and they can transfer it later to the respective jurisdiction. So you need to say
Correct.
when something of serious nature happens to a woman and she wants to file a complaint, like she wants to register an FIR, if she has been sexually harassed or she has been raped, she's putting an allegation of rapes on someone, police cannot deny to file a zero FIR. So a lot of women do not know that they need to go back and forth. You can always go to your nearest police station. If I've been harassed or anything, just go and file a complaint. Just register an FIR. That's it. That's what you need to do. The rest of the
And
sections can be taken care of by the police. You do not have to worry. You just need to know the incident, people who have committed crime against you. That's it. You need to remember the incident. And if you do not remember the details, do not give. If you don't remember the time and exact everything, just tell afternoon or it happened in the morning. So because it can be used in the court of law, because it need to be corroborated. It takes place in the trial. So you have to be very careful while you're describing the incident happened to you. Okay.
and this is important, especially for young women who are dating and interacting with people
Yeah.
online. And often a lot of the dating apps, you're meeting people you don't know. And if you've been through something that for you constitutes a violation of consent, it's
Yeah.
important to be able to access the legal system. And from what Shraddha's told us, you can effectively walk into any police station and file a complaint, no matter what the
Yes.
jurisdiction or what the law it falls under, as long
Exactly.
as you make it to the police station and file the complaint, and then they have to do the rest.
Exactly.
Is there a women's cell phone number or a way for a woman to
Yes.
contact
Yes.
I know that there's a number, isn't there?
Yeah, yes, there is a number. It's a simple of Google thing. People, I also believe that a lot of women do not have privilege to use a mobile phone. I don't
Yeah.
remember the exact number, but you can really type on Google like women helpline number. It always comes up. It always comes up
Yes.
for domestic help, domestic violence help, serious crimes of nature. And if somebody is harassing you online, you can always go to cybergovernment.in. That is the official website by the central government, where you can register a complaint, cyber complaint against any person. So they
And
have
this could be
listed the
someone harassing you on Facebook, someone trying to barge
anything.
into your lives and sending you lewd comments on Instagram. Guys,
Exactly,
the law keeps
exactly.
up, which means that, we read of really horrific things happening to women. I wanted to
Yes,
not focus a whole lot on that because I hope and pray that no one ever encounters something as severe as that. But all of us are dealing with microaggressions every day. you're
Yeah.
dating and someone goes too far, you're online and people are, it seems to be passe or okay to send lewd direct messages online. It isn't.
Yeah.
It's cyberbullying. It's
So
sexual
I'll
harassment.
just put a light on the recent judgment given by Allahabad High Court. So a lot of people in consensual relationship think if a woman has given a consent to share her nude photos, uh, the Allahabad High Court has put out a judgment that just because she has consent, you have captured her videos and images with her consent, doesn't give a right to publish it, doesn't give a right to, break her trust or dignity. So it can be considered again sexual harassment, and it can be covered under IT Act and various sections like under Section 67. A lot of like when you're portraying obscene scene like pornography and for putting out child images and everything, which is covered under the law. You do not have to afraid. Only thing you need to know is go to the respective police station, have evidence. It's good to have evidence if that is being done. You can also go under if somebody is telling you to, you share this with me and I'll do this, and asking sexual favors and telling you, like we see a lot of news like women have been threatened to, share if you don't do this for me, I'll just post this online, everything. You don't have to get afraid. Law is there to protect you. You can file a cyber complaint or just go to your nearest police station and file an FIR against the person. Give the details. Police will take the ahead. Rest goes.
So
If
okay,
police
let's just break this down to make it simple for someone like me who doesn't know any of this. If you are being harassed online in any forum, you're covered under the, of course, Sexual Harassment Act, but also the IT Act. And in addition to going to the police, you said that there is a cyber website, which is
Yes,
what's that called again, please?
it's called cybergovernment.in. You can just put
Cyber.
how to file an online complaint. You'll see the first website, the government website. You need to just
I
click
see.
on it. It's a very simple process, so it's
I
not that
see.
complicated.
So if you are being harassed online, it is sexual harassment and cyberbullying, and you can go to the police or you can file a complaint online. No one has to go through any sort of stress. And this is
Yeah.
with overlapping within the context of the workforce as well. So if the
No,
person harassing you at work, it's not okay.
the workplace is different because workplace has a different act. You can file a police complaint according to the Posh Act, but it not totally gets overlap. It's a different aspect because IC is an independent workplace body, so it governs by the different acts. So
I
you need to
see.
understand.
And so
Yeah,
is there if someone is being harassed, say, online at the workplace, then does the cyber
yeah.
government website cover that as well or no?
See, you can always file a complaint to your respective organization first. That's the first step you need. So also as an employer has to take a due process of law, employee also has to. So you don't have to go there. You can just file a police complaint, normal police complaint, or register an FIR. The police will take the due course, and you file your complaint with your HR or the IC committee. And if you do not have you have less than 10 employees, you can go to the LC, that is local complaint committee. So it can be constituted by the state or anything. You can
I
always
see.
reach out to women's commission, the state women's commission. They are always there to help you. Any problem, you just need to give them a call, and there are NGOs which can help you out with the process. Or always, if you know somebody who is a lawyer, always go there. But lawyer can be
Absolutely.
expensive.
Absolutely. I was simply talking about a gray area. Like, for example, let's just say a
Yeah,
lot of people now socialize with people from work, and
yeah,
you are being bullied online, and you know
yes.
the person from work as well. And I was just curious if the online cyberbullying government website also covers people you know from work, because you mentioned that apparently the laws are
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. So you can file a cyberbullying complaint for the workplace, but what I advise is it's always good to inform your employer first. If you're not
Yes.
comfortable doing it, you always file a complaint if you're getting cyberbullied at the workplace because it falls under the workplace ambit. So the laws have been covered very differently. So, but however, you can still file a complaint. So
I see. Now, that's a lot of information. Listen, first of all, I appreciate you spending time with me. I just see we've gone
yes,
well over the hour. I'm just going to, at this point, say if there are people who have any questions, please go ahead and ask. And Shraddha, at this point, I want to say, is there anything that you feel with regards to today's topics that we haven't adequately covered or you'd like to add before we sign off today? And we're going to use this time to let anyone who has questions to please go ahead and ask.
till any question comes up, I'll just tell one thing. If the victim is not able to file the complaint, any person who is their relative in workplace, co-workers can file a complaint or the legal aid in normal due course of when you get harassed and anything. And any person who knows you, like your family member, your friends, who is an witness to the incident, can file a complaint. So it is not necessary. A lot of people think that, you know, I've got queries where people saying, how can I file a complaint? I'm witnessing this, how can I? You can. It's a duty to file a complaint if the victim has given, because with the laws we are talking about are kind of a serious nature against women, you know. So it is very important to have victims consent. If you haven't, but they want to, but they are afraid to do it, so can other family members or friends can go ahead and file an FIR for the
That's
victim.
good to know, especially if you're not in a position to file a complaint.
Exactly.
Well, this has all honestly been incredibly enlightening, because frankly, whether it comes to the fact that as a woman you can fight against being discriminated at work, and I'm assuming that includes things like not being hired or considered or being given an interview for any job because you're a woman. Whether it's being worried about sexual harassment or being eve teased online or offline, or whether it's about how to engage with the police, there's a lot of laws and bodies that one can contact and can take due course. And from what I've learned from you, Shraddha, the big takeaway for me is that I think as women, if we feel that we're being mistreated, I think we have to speak up. I think a lot of women
Yeah,
just don't file complaints. And you've said something today that's really struck me, that unless women speak up, how are the laws going to be evolved to
exactly.
deal with these problems? So we as responsible citizens, if we want our rights protected, we have to speak up when we see our
Yes.
rights being violated.
Absolutely. I mean, I hope that I have given whoever is listening, and especially women are listening out there. I know a lot of women who do not come from a privileged background, and there is a lot goes when some you get sexually harassed or you're being raped. A lot of nitty-gritties goes and the trauma and everything. I totally understand, but if you do this, take this one step, you know, we can change the law. I mean, laws are stringent, but the compliance and the people who are supposed to protect the law have been misusing and abusing the law. That's the biggest part of the law. I mean, we have, like, I personally, I feel we have lot of good laws to protect women in our country. However, people who are supposed to protect are just being ignorant at some cases, but
Well,
they have
then, do
serious
you think it's
implications.
even worth engaging the legal system in that case?
No, I feel everybody should engage in the legal system. Nobody should ever think just, it shouldn't be a low point where you, something has happened to you, you just take. That's how the world evolved, right? We didn't have laws before which were so discriminatory. It changed, right? Judiciary is there. If you file a complaint at the court, and also one point I need to tell you, if you are a woman or a child or a person who has been trafficked and who has income of low below 9,000 or 12,000, you have right to free legal aid. So do not ever think that you are alone as a woman in this. You have a right to free legal aid. Always, for if you cannot hire a lawyer, the state will appoint a lawyer for you. You can always tell the court that you are not in a capacity to hire a lawyer. The court will tell the state to appoint a lawyer. So a lot of women also feel that I cannot do this because I do not have financial stability. I do not have finance to, you know, fight the legal cases. How am I going to pay the lawyers? Trust me, lawyers are expensive when it
Yes.
comes to litigation.
Yes.
So that's the reason a lot of women also know that they do not know how would I do it. So you have a right to free legal aid in our country. There are conditions who can get legal aid. So they are women or child, then you have to have annual income below 9,000 or 12,000. Then person who have been trafficked, they have rights to, you know, have free legal aid in our country. So never imagine that just because you do not have a money, you cannot take a legal action. You can take a legal action.
And that's good for us to know as women. Everyone who's on Instagram, I'm assuming, is in a position of privilege. But we all have domestic help or someone we know who's financially challenged and is struggling with all sorts of legal situations like domestic violence and are not taking action. And in fact, that's what we're going to be covering in our next session.
Yes.
Today, we focus primarily on the workplace and how we are protected by the law and how to engage with the legal system. But on Monday, we're going to talk about a lot more personal stuff, just what the laws are with regards to various domestic scenarios as a woman if you want to adopt, what your rights are in terms of inheritance of family assets, and so on and so forth. And that's, I think, equally important and significant. And Shraddha, I'm really, really looking forward to that session as well. But I have to say, I'm
Same
grateful I
here.
had to save this conversation on the wall because I'm going to go back and listen to it slowly and absorb the plethora of information you've given us today. I think this conversation is a real gem and a real resource, and I really, really thank you. At least
Yes,
I know that anytime I talk to any woman and they
yes,
see me in the dark, I'm going to say, go on my wall and check Shraddha's live to know what you need to know, like get a quick lesson on what really we should know about where we
yes.
stand legally in India.
This is great. I mean, when you approached me with this initiative, I was so happy because it is something which needs to be spoken on the platform. And women need to know they are protected by law and how they can
Yes,
take course of action. So
yes.
absolutely thank you for coming up with this and contacting me. I'm so glad that we met online. I've told you before that internet is such a lovely place to meet people, and you're one of them. I'm so glad to have you. So yeah,
Likewise. I'm so
great.
glad to have met you. I think you're incredibly inspiring, and
Thank
at
you.
such a young age to be so self-aware and woke. It's entirely my pleasure. Thank you so much, and keep being you and keep fighting the good fight.
Yes.
All
Okay.
right.
See
Lots
you
of
on
love.
Monday.
You have a good
Bye.
evening, and I'm going to see you on Monday.
Yeah. Have a great weekend.
All right. This is
Bye.
almost like a mini relationship. It's 2 dates.
Yeah. I would love to go on date with you. Eventually, if
Done.
I come to
Done.
Delhi, I'll definitely go on date with you to have this
Absolutely. It's a
conversation.
date. It's a date.
Yes.
It's done.
Done.
Lots of love, my dear.
Bye.
Thank you so much. From the bottom of my heart, I have learned so much. Some of it maybe a lot more serious than I was prepared for. I'm going to absorb this, and I'm sure everyone else will as well. It really, 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 thank you, Shraddha. Means a lot.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Take care. Bye.